Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast channels 98 and 22. Channel 98 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 13, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well. Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. The meeting will be starting shortly. While we wait, let's learn more about Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast channels 98 and 22. Channel 98 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 13, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.
say our names, and then we'll get right into public comment. So why don't we start down with Allison?
Allison Eberhardt.
Don Clement.
Kyle Welch.
Andrew Koff.
Trevor Matera.
Connor Madison.
Dave Short.
Kristen Murphy, staff supposed to come, and Nancy Boland, who's select board representative.
All right, and online, we have Mr. William Campbell. Can you hear us? Bill, can you hear us? You want to unmute?
He's froze, I think.
He's frozen on the screen, but he's live here on the screen.
I can hear you.
Okay. Oh, he's back.
His cutout speaks.
I think
right.
I'm all right.
All right, excellent. Thanks for tuning in, Bill. Is there any public comment for items not on the agenda? All right, seeing none, we'll get into our first action item, which is the Exeter Trail Race. Rye?
Hi there, my name's Rye Fonestock, and I'm representing the Exeter Trail Race. We've got, I'm one of the co-race directors. It's myself, Sarah Saladay, and then actually we've kind of also moved in a little bit more with a gentleman named Chris Dunn. And if you've experienced me being up here before, those names would kind of be familiar because they're the same people who've been doing this race for I don't know how many years, over 10 now, because it was 10 a couple years ago. So. And so it's the usual thing. We're here. Our proposed date is the weekend of Father's Day. I think it's the third. I should have this. It's the third Sunday in June.
Sweet.
Yep. And all of the details are the same as they've been every year. We're going to be over in the Commerce Way roundabout there, starting, and the only new things this year would be, COVID protocols. Well, obviously, we didn't do it the last year, maybe even 2 years, I think. It's all kind of blurring together. I also had a kid around this time, so. But in that regard, what we're doing is we're just kind of really minimizing the before and after aspects. And so as opposed to, say, for instance, at the end, we've had people wait around for awards. We just post the awards, and if somebody wins, then they could stay around. And we do raffles, and it's a similar thing. So if their bib number comes up, we just post it on the board. That way people don't have to be communal any more than they want to be. Obviously, too, we're kind of following, there is a little bit of a trend going now for increased transmission, but as of now, still, we're also, everything seems to be quasi-normal, so we're kind of proceeding under those premises like most people are. And yeah, so if you guys have any questions or specifics, I'm happy to address them. Otherwise, I mean, I've been up here before, and I'll just kind of assume that everybody knows the general phenomenon. Some of the faces look new, but certainly there's a lot of people here who I recognize before, so.
And you have it says 150 here for.
Yeah,
cap.
that's been high every time we get, some years we get a little bit ambitious, and then by the time the race comes, it's just kind of like, and 100, we've never had, I don't think we've quite ever had that many. It's been more like 100 usually, and this year we're kind of on trend to be about the same. Obviously you guys make the final call, but as far as me being a race director and a racer, it's never been more than that site can handle. As you guys may remember from way back, we've actually moved it from the other entrance down by the trestle. We had it there at one point, and so yeah, we moved it over there, and we haven't had any problems since. And the numbers have kind of stayed even throughout the years at this point. So
No, it's a great course, and we have in your packet. There's there's a short course and a long course. The short course is Henderson Swayze, and the long course goes up into Oaklands, and it follows, it looks like pretty much the red trail plus a little bit of a deviation.
Yeah, well, and also, as you know, it's been a little bit since I've been back there. The trails change dramatically, but that should be, I was out there not too long ago, and most of the course should be almost identical. Also, just so everybody knows, I usually go out the night before. I don't actually even go out the day before. I usually start right around dusk, set the trail overnight, and that way it's up only overnight, and then for the time that the race is there, do that partially just because that's my scheduling, but also to prevent any sort of malicious intent or whatever, and then also to minimize impact. And then we have a sweep every year who cleans that all up, and that sweep also maintains the last place status. So hypothetically, they do their sweep job and make sure there's nobody else out on the course. Throughout the years, every once in a while, we have somebody go off course, but we've never had any dramatic situations about that, and one way or another, always been able to deal with it. And we do address that before we talk, or in our pre-race meeting with the racers, we always talk about what the protocol is for that sort of stuff, et cetera. So we also have a couple aid stations too, so just in case you know, runner safety and all of that sort of stuff, they're available, and there's also water and other sorts of things out there for them.
Well, these guys have always done a great job. So I make a motion to approve their use of the town forest for their event.
Well, thank you.
Second.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Do we want to designate the person who, we typically have someone go out and just check trail conditions, right, beforehand, and give it the thumbs up?
We
or have we not
have,
done
in the way that's kind of actually been dealt with in the past, so initially that was something that was very kind of happened every year, and that was because the race that came before us was a mountain bike race, and there were very extreme impacts on the course. Over the course of the years, that's kind of drifted off as we've become more familiar, our races become more familiar, and we've never had any impact issues. And where we've kind of set it recently has been that if there seems to be there's an impending weather event that would do that sort of thing, then we have gotten in touch with the ComCom and had somebody go out there to make sure. But as much because, I mean, we're happy to have that. I don't mind, certainly, but just to not waste anybody else's time or anything like that. That's what's kind of been the habit.
Rain or dry, you know, if it rained hard tonight, by Thursday morning, they'd be dry again.
Yeah, I mean, also just speaking as a historical thing, like, we had a lot more wet season, we had a lot more snow and all that other sort of stuff, and that just, those trails don't stay that wet in the, like, because what it was a build, well, first off, we've also moved our date back, if I recall. We were earlier in June, very, very early on. Then we moved it back, and then, so in part to deal with the rain issues, but also because it was like just, yeah, the course stays muddier earlier in the spring, as everybody who mountain bikes knows, and then it dries out. And once it dries out, as Dave's saying, it tends to be pretty good out there. So, but again, that's just my opinion. I'm happy to go by whatever you guys want to do, certainly. So,
Yeah, I think we can just be in touch if there's a concern from our perspective. But
Happy to do that,
yeah,
or-
it seems unlikely.
Well,
Yep.
Kyle's out there a lot, I'm out there a lot.
well, and, you know, knock on wood, I'm going to say this, and then it's going to go the opposite, but,
Don't say it.
yeah, okay,
Yeah.
I won't.
I'm not going to be available that weekend. Otherwise, I would probably run
Yeah.
and register. But
Yep.
I'm unfortunately I'm not there.
Well, Father's Day is mixed for a
yeah.
lot of people there, for sure, but we've got to squeeze it in around other races, too. That's why we always pick that one.
Yeah,
And
no,
we've
it
had
seems like a
historically
good-
good weather, so.
A good event, and I think Carlos went one year and tabled. Just if we set up before, I don't know if that's something.
We're
you're
always open to
having
that.
Other vendor, you probably don't have other vendors there, but
You know, the whole situation with COVID really just kind of changed the paradigm of what the start-finish looks
Yeah.
like at these sorts of events, and so it tends to be more people like setting up things that they then walk away from than somebody standing behind a table. But again, also, we're happy to have whatever, if you guys want any representation, we're always happy to have it, whether it's just something we set up and can return somewhere, or whether it's somebody who comes out and is part of the event, so.
Your trail map is really nicely done.
Thank you. That's not my doing, but that's just the graphic designer, but it is nice, yeah.
yeah, they did a good job.
Yeah.
Does the course go through 3CI's parking lot at the start and finish?
Yes, yep, we've had permission historically. My co-race director, Sarah, is in charge of getting all the land permission uses from them and a number of other people, which hopefully she's taken care of, and if not, we can continue to address that. But, and so, yeah, usually we start in we actually do our hosting in the Lantern Company parking lot. That's where the bathrooms and the announcements go. We start the race kind of actually on the road, the 9 Commerce Way, before you get to the circle, kind of at the first entrance to the Lantern parking lot, and then it runs for a short period up until into that entrance there, so, yep.
Okay, so we had a motion and then we had more discussion, so I guess at this point we can, unless there's any other discussion, we can vote. Do we need to do roll call? Because of,
Is it just you?
or we can just, us at the table vote and then, okay, let's do that. We have 7, which is our number. Is everyone okay voting tonight? We can call up Don and Kyle. Are you an alternate? You're voting tonight, Kyle. Okay, all right. All right, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, the ayes have it.
Well, we thank you
Thank
very
you,
much, and hopefully maybe we'll see 1 or 2 of you out there, if not, maybe a friend or family member, so.
All right.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Curiosity question, do you have same-day registration?
Yep, we do. We have same-day registration, and then we also, just for whatever information, we also allow, this year, we're allowing cancellations up to like the race if you want your full refund. Because again, if COVID comes or people have any concerns or anything like that, we just want to make sure that everybody feels comfortable not attending the race if they actually not want to attend it because they don't feel well or whatever. So yep.
Awesome, thank
All
you.
right.
It's good.
Thank you.
Good idea. Thanks, Ray. Okay. Up next, we have a wetland and shoreline conditional use permit application for 5 pole replacements within the existing A126 electric transmission line corridor. And I believe we have, is it Chris?
That's right.
All right, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having us again. I feel like we just saw you guys not too long ago. Seems like it. So I'm Chris Wilkes. I work for VHB, supporting Eversource on permitting for upcoming structure replacement work in Exeter. This year, we're still marching along on the A126 transmission line, which was subject to the work that we did last year. So we are looking at 5 structure replacements this year. Very similar in the approach and the configuration if you recall what we discussed last go-round, but essentially these are, wooden poles, 2-pole structures with a cross arm. They're H-frame configuration. They're typically 50 years old plus. At that point, they're exposed to rot and woodpecker damage and weathering. So as part of reliability efforts by Eversource, they're looking to, replace the most deficient structures on the line every year and kind of keep plugging away until they make that line up to current standards. So those wooden poles will be replaced with weathered steel, same configuration, 2-pole H-frame. The structures themselves will be replaced relatively in kind, so within about 10 feet of their current location. And typically height changes slightly of an increase anywhere from 5 to 15 feet. And that's just to meet, current industry standards for vertical, horizontal clearance from ground and vegetation. So that's kind of the technical piece of it. If you guys have the mapping, I can walk through the locations this year. So the first spot that we have 3 structure replacements is off of Pine Road. And if you recall, we worked, it's in Brentwood, so you may not recall, but last year we worked to the west of Pine Road and we did both the H141 and A126 transmission line. Did a bunch of structure replacements on the west side of Pine Road. So we're basically continuing where we left off. And there's a stretch now between Pine Road and Route 101 that we're gonna go in and replace those structures. 2 of them are in Brentwood, and then we hit the town line. So the last 3 between the town line and Route 101 are in Exeter. And we're proposing to use access off of Pine Road to get to those structures. There's actually an existing gated access just beyond the businesses there, that takes you right down to the right-of-way. So we're assuming we're gonna utilize that access point, get to the right-of-way, and then traverse down the right-of-way to structures 202, 201, and 200. This year is a little bit different. We're looking at sort of minimizing ground disturbance by using upland matting or tracked equipment. And so there's, if you have the plans in front of you, you'll see the purple sort of access routes, and that represents either gonna be upland matting or tracked equipment to get to those structures. You will see we have in Exeter, we are proposing some wetland impacts, temporary, and that's the result of where the access road or the work pad associated with the structure intersects wetlands, and where we're gonna use timber matting there as a best managed practice, like we always do in wetlands, to, you know, set up a stable access route or platform to do the work on. So, we obviously didn't want to come off of Route 101 to get to structure 200. There's guardrail there, there's an embankment, so the best way to come in is from Pine Road. There is a prime wetland, designated prime wetland within the right-of-way that comes into the right-of-way between structures 201 and 200. So we do have temporary timber matting impacts to that wetland to get to structure 200, which is located adjacent to the highway. And then, of course, we have buffer impacts to the, you know, the prime wetland, the 100-foot buffer to the prime wetland, as well as the 40-foot buffers to other wetlands in town under the conservation district. I can get into those specific numbers in a minute, but I can march to the next location here, which is on page 2. It is to the west of Captain's Way. And essentially, we have 2 structures there that we're looking at replacing, structures 166 and 167. We're gonna come off of Captain's Way, utilize the existing trails that run down the right-of-way to get to those 2 structures. There is a wetland and a stream in between them. So again, there, we're gonna propose timber matting to access across that wetland to get to structure 167. The stream there is an unnamed perennial stream. It basically just flows north to south, directly intersecting the right-of-way through that wetland. It's pretty, it's not well-defined within the wetland, within the right-of-way, but it's more, it kind of channelizes on the edge of the right-of-way to the north and south through the forested land. So it's more or less kind of spreads out. It's more of a inundated area within that wetland. It's not well-defined, but we are gonna, again, you know, use bridging techniques with timber mats to allow for flow to pass freely underneath while we do the work. And that's typical for streams or any kind of drainages. We try and not block flow and create problems while we're there. So we do have, again here, we have some buffer impacts to the wetland. We have temporary impact to the wetland itself, and then we are also in the Shoreland Protection District because of that perennial stream, and that's a 150-foot buffer that carries under the Shoreland Protection District. So that's why, that essentially is the location as to why we're seeking a shoreland conditional use permit. It's just that one stream. I guess other things, you know, we, in terms of best management practices outside of timber matting, we're obviously gonna deploy erosion controls prior to the start of work to prevent indirect impacts to wetlands downslope and, you know, contain sediment. Those will be wildlife-friendly options because Eversource is, you know, used to that at this point with, based on Fish and Game guidance. that we're gonna, use biodegradable erosion controls, like a fabric case silt sock or something that doesn't have plastic mesh encasing on it, because that is known to entangle, turtles and snakes. It's a known fact, actually, and there's been documented cases of that. So all the utilities and their contractors have been getting away from using those options. So we'll plan on doing the same here. We typically hold VHB, typically holds training in the field with the contractor and Eversource Environmental prior to the start of work, just to kind of run through permit conditions, best management practices, make sure that, while the work is performed, it's in compliance with all state, and if you guys have any local concerns. We are obviously pursuing a state permit for this, so it's can run up under a statutory permit by notification, which is a pretty streamlined process for utility maintenance work. So we will be, we're in the process of drafting that, and we'll gain that approval prior to us heading out to do the work. The work right now is scheduled tentatively for a July timeframe of a start, so mid-July, somewhere around there. Yes.
It looks like there are trails under where this second part is gonna be.
Yep.
Will they have to be closed?
Yeah, so we are aware of that system out there, and we've dealt with this previously. I think further down the line, when we worked 2 years ago, I think it's the same set of trails, the mountain bike trails that are out there. So we were able to work to avoid impacts to that area. I mean, there was some, mountain bikers that had been coming out while that work was being done. I forget the road, I think it was Watson Road. Watson.
Yeah, you took over that parking lot, right?
Parking lot there, yeah.
Yeah.
So I assume that this is kind of the same network. So I think, Jeremy from Eversource here, I think we can, I'm not sure who maintains those trails or who would
We
be
do.
best, okay, to coordinate with on that, to ensure that, that area is again, left to condition of you guys, that you guys prefer, and also we minimize impacts in terms of users while we're out there. But he can speak more about the timing of the work and and how that is set up. Is that based off of outages typically that are difficult to get? So it kind of dictates when the work is done.
Is that part of the Oakland's town forest?
Yeah,
North of the power line, okay.
it's right on the power lines.
Yeah,
So
one
does
time, yeah.
the
that's right.
red, the eastern half of the red trail comes through that part?
Yeah. It's like right where you come out of the woods onto the power lines on the red trail. But
Right.
now, is there a problem with when the work's being done in that, of people using the trail system? Is that gonna be
It's right here.
like a problem for,
Yeah, I mean, there's, obviously, when the construction.
Can you step and talk into the
Sure.
mic so folks
That's
at
fine.
home?
Jeremy Fennell, Eversource Energy. Yeah, so when the transmission equipment is, working actively on the line, putting up the towers, doing the civil work, the general public can't really go through there safely. So it seems like the thing that would make the most sense, I don't know what methodology there is of communicating this to the public, whether there's like a Facebook page or
There is?
something like that. Yeah, so that would be, we have an outreach group, they're usually here, but, I'll communicate that to them. We can also have some physical signage while we're out there. I don't have like the specific, days yet, because we don't have the, the contractor selected or things like that. I mean, it's generally gonna be, summer, going a little bit into fall, but we'll get those details, and then we can help, sounds like the Conservation Commission, communicate that to the public. But I guess short answer is there'll be certain days where during work hours, the public can't go onto the trails safely, so. But it's only a couple of structures, so it shouldn't be that many days.
Well, the trail could be rerouted
Yeah.
west down the line and then across Parliament, back to the double track.
Yeah, we just have to cut off
You know.
the eastern portion.
Yeah,
I feel like maybe if you guys could look at the trail map and figure out where you need closed.
well, it looks like they just come up to about the stream area, or just past the stream area.
But now, you guys are coming in from Watson Road with
No,
your
no.
equipment?
No, they're coming in
Captain's.
from Captain's Way,
Okay.
all the way to this 167.
So they're going to be east of where the trail comes back out of the woods from the Enchanted Forest Trail. And that'll be easy enough to take a left coming out of there,
That's what he's talking about.
go up to Parliament.
They're gonna be right here.
That could be a temporary reroute for the Red Trail. 'Cause That's
Block
the Red
this.
Trail, our main walking and biking trail. It's the main loop, I guess. But there would be a way around
So
it.
they're gonna be right here.
Block,
So I guess if
Block this.
right here, here,
you forward
here.
it to me and let me know timeframe, then we can
Sure.
figure out
Mark it.
notification and,
Yeah.
so would you install closure signs?
That was a suggestion that I had, that and doing something on the Facebook page, if that works for the commission. I mean, that's usually what we do.
And then each day, is it buttoned up or does it need to be closed? I mean, obviously, we want whatever's safe, so it's.
Yeah, and like weekends, yeah, we gotta figure out the nights and weekends, kind of.
Yeah, as far as
It's
the
best to, but it's best to probably close them until they're done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we make it so it's safe, because obviously they're landowners and things like that, so any kind of excavation, we close up and, but as far as, it would be, like you said, it would be better if people weren't running around there with bikes and things like that, because there will be equipment out there off hours, so,
Would
But
be-
yeah.
How long do you expect to be at the site, that site working?
right here. I'm hoping not more than a few weeks, but again, not knowing the exact number of days and the way things are gonna be scheduled, it may be that they prep the site and then wait a couple weeks and then put the towers up. But as far as the amount of time that we need to actually close down the area, it shouldn't be more than, a couple weeks.
Okay, well, that's, I think
It only impacts-
that's manageable, I think.
It's maybe a quarter mile of trail that would have to be rerouted. So it's not a huge deal, really.
I think you're gonna have to close all the way from Captain's Way to the far side of to the western side of it, and then where the bog trail comes
Well,
down.
yeah, as you're heading, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the three-way intersection where Enchanted Forest comes out, or the Red Trail and Enchanted Forest meet,
I'm having trouble with my eyes tonight. so-
Okay.
from that point
It's been a
Right.
while since I've been out there.
over to the bog.
To the bog, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep, okay. Okay. So that will involve some coordination. But we haven't approved anything yet, so do we have other sort of technical questions on this?
I have a question.
Sure.
So, I think I found it in here. It talks about in areas where soils are disturbed, that they'll be reseeded, VHB will consult and provide guidance on reseeding, with the goal of returning the condition to its pre-construction condition. So, I guess I'd like to hear more about what the criteria are for determining, like, if there's more seeding needed and if there's any plantings done there, in addition to just seeding to get it back to pre-construction conditions. And then the last thing is, if I recall, there was, in terms of invasives, it was like lithrome and maybe, I'm sure buckthorn, right? And what efforts there'll be to limit the spread
Sure.
of invasives.
Yeah, so in terms of restoration, typically how it goes is they complete their work, we'll start pulling stuff out, matting and such. And we often time so VHB, we do weekly visits during construction. And that's to ensure the contractor's in compliance with permits and conditions, but it's really also to ensure that, they're minimizing their impact on the ground, and that each day there's no risk of, a bunch of sediment draining down into a wetland, or they're not driving through a wetland and rutting it up, that they're not supposed to be. So that's kind of the emphasis of the oversight, is to make sure that they're sort of following these plans to the T. So as they start pulling things out, we try and time our visit to right around when they start that activity, so that we can meet with them on the ground, assess conditions. And, often, to be honest, there's, in terms of disturbance, they've done this so much now that in terms of pulling out mats, I find that underneath those mats, the wetland is relatively, intact. There may be a little bit of exposed soil as they, take those mats out, is caused by taking those mats out. But the vegetation is still there. It's flattened. But, with these rights-of-way too, the vegetation out there is this, herbaceous and shrub type stuff that just bounces back very quickly. And I've seen when you pull out mats and you have an area that's flattened like that with vegetation, you go back out there in a couple months and it's like totally different. They weren't even there, or wait a growing season and you would have a hard time seeing that they were there. So stuff rebounds naturally pretty quickly, just based on the habitat there and the vegetation composition. But I would say the exposed soils, if there are exposed soils, often we ask them to put some straw mulch down, cover those areas up. That allows for reduction of erosion from, say, rain events, and it gives that soil and whatever kind of seeds are left in there to kind of a chance to, revegetate naturally there. So it kind of keeps everything buttoned up as that process happens. For wetlands, we don't often recommend seeding because we don't like to introduce stuff that's not native, that's already out there. We want it to revegetate to the condition it was in. We don't want to introduce a bunch of just, random seeds from, it could be a totally different mix of wetland plants. So it kind of gets technical when you look at wetland seed mixes, and you got to be careful with that. So that's often, and the state prefers a lot of the times that we don't reseed wetlands. But in the uplands, sometimes we do need to do that. So it is a lot of times it's a seed mix that is approved by DES for upland areas. It can it's like dry sites, erosion control mix can take pretty quickly because you want to get growth going again and get, permanent stabilization there. So the quicker that stuff comes back, the better, and the less you have to go back out there.
And what about in the wetlands, and particularly, say, the prime wetland in areas of soil disturbance, actually planting, not seeding? So I'm talking.
Yeah, we
plugs
don't
seeding.
often do that. I don't think we've ever really done that. And the thing about that too is, you got to remember these rights of way are maintained for vegetation on like a 3 to 5 year basis. So you see they will come out and mow the vegetation, down pretty much to the ground in a lot of these areas. And that's just because this stuff grows so quickly. I mean, if you don't do that on a 5 year basis, then the stuff is, going to potentially threaten the overhead line, and you're in a dense, jungle. So in order to, again, maintain their right-of-way, maintain their access, they do that vegetation work. So I would say that the planting and stuff would be counterintuitive to that veg work that needs to get done. It'd almost be like you'd be putting those plants in and then having to monitor them and make sure that during that vegetation work that they're not cut or, mowed, because that's just kind of their standard practice is to do the mowing. So I haven't seen the plantings ever done. I just seen the seed be used. So in terms of invasives, you know, you mentioned purple loosestrife, definitely out there in a couple areas, and glossy buckthorn's a big one. What we do is, there's a BMP manual that DES has, that for utility maintenance, that has an invasive species management section in it, and we're basically try and follow that guidance. And best way to deal with that is, you know, to try and eliminate the inadvertent spread from one area to another. You know, we know it's there, it's difficult to manage, it's often really dense and well-established. So the emphasis is, you know, when these crews move from one location to another, that they're inspecting their equipment, their mats, they're cleaning stuff off, whether it's with hand tools, sometimes they use compressed air, so that they're not transporting stuff that's full of soil and seed stock and then just getting down to another section of right-of-way where that stuff could spread. We also look at, you know, making sure they're delivering stuff to the site clean in the first place, so that, you know, we don't just get a truck full of timber mats that were just pulled from a wetland 3 towns over that have, you know, just full of mud and sediment, and we're sticking those in the right of way. So it's sort of required that they deliver that equipment and that material clean, and then as they move along, we emphasize that training with them to make sure that, you know, we can do what we can, try and avoid spreading that stuff. So.
Yeah, thanks. Okay,
Yeah.
this question is, this is my last one, but how is that dynamic as you're out there providing oversight? Like, are you working with the same people? Because I could imagine it being a little tense sometimes, or are you just working with the same people all the time, that it's old hat and you're like, oh, hey, you got to do this,
Yeah.
and they do it and move on? Like, what is that dynamic like?
It's gotten a lot better in the last few years. You know, I would say early on when Eversource has been, in my personal experience working for them in the last 5 years, they're really good about that, you know, making sure that oversight is happening with the contractor and that communication. I would say more than 5 years ago, it was definitely much more difficult. You know, I think the contractors they're so used to us being there, and there's the same three or four contractors that Eversource has used. So we see the same people a lot of the times, you know, so they get familiar with us. And at first, I would say there probably was a little bit of resistance. Now it's like they just know they know we're there, they know they have to do these things, and they're pretty good about it, and the communication is pretty good. I think the biggest thing is we try to, you know, if we identify something, we try and immediately speak with them on site and have it addressed while we're there. We do write reports and provide those to Eversource, and, you know, it's just a communication on the ground with those guys rather than putting an action item in a report and them having to see it, you know, a couple days later when we were there and talking with them and we didn't mention it. So try and just be proactive with them. And, you know, a lot of times it's something as simple as fixing a silt fence or, you know, putting some straw mulch down, and that could happen before we even leave. And then it's like, doesn't even need to go in the report that we write. So,
Yeah.
but there is accountability there because there is a report that's written, provided to Eversource, it's distributed to the contractor. And so, you know, if there's action items in there, there's a record of it. So.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know the Watson Road, and that might be something we could talk about, was how it went at the last time. And because I remember that parking area we talked about. I don't know, forgetting if it was purple loosestrife or actually knotweed, or there was some significant invasives there, and I don't know what it looked like before and after and what it's like now. But I don't know if you remember anything from that
rings a
project
bell.
and how that went for
Rings
you
a
last
bell.
time.
I have to say, I haven't been by there lately at all, so I would be curious to see what it's looking like, you know, now versus when the work was done. But I do remember, I think it was knotweed potentially. That one was, you know, right on the parking lot, basically, that
Right.
structure. So that was kind of we had the benefit, we didn't have to travel far to get to it. We were like literally coming off the parking lot right to the structure. I think we matted everything there, even the uplands, to kind of minimize ground disturbance. I think that's what we did, from what I remember. And then we just kind of pulled everything out, and, you know, I think everything was sort of left as it was when we came in there, but.
Yeah, that almost seems like a better strategy for invasives, just to mat it. And
Yeah.
then you're not chewing
Getting
it
into
up
the
with
ground, right.
with the tracked
Yeah.
vehicle and then spreading it along the track.
Yeah, I think in dense areas, I think that is probably the best approach. Is it's really when you get into digging into the ground and you're spreading the roots and the, you know, I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
some of that stuff spreads by the rhizomes, and it's prolific how quickly it can take off, so.
Okay, well, thanks, Allison. That was a good question. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah.
Do we have any other questions? So we have two separate areas, and we also have two separate approvals. We have the wetland conditional use permit, which is related to all the 5 of pole projects because there were wetlands accessing those. And then the shoreland is specific to the one off Captain's Way because of that stream. That's correct?
Correct.
Summary of our work here that we have to do?
Exactly.
Okay.
One more question. I know what
Sure.
the timber mats look like, but I'm trying to think of how it works crossing the perennial stream. So are they just stiff, so it just goes plop right over and crosses?
They are
the-
stiff, yeah. A lot of times they'll kind of build like a bridge, so they'll kind of put, they're 16 feet long by 4 feet wide is the dimension, so often they lay them 16 feet, kind of like if you're driving out this way, it'd be 16 feet wide, right? You want 16-foot wide road. So, but for the crossings, they'll kind of put maybe one mat down on either side, like beyond the bank, and use it like almost a abutment, kind of, and then sort of transition up to that. A lot of times with either other, you know, a layer or 2 of mats, or they sometimes use mulch to get. And so it's almost like they're raising up the level there, so they're at least a mat or 2 depth up above the stream. So often it's not just like one mat down across. It's kind of, they build it up on either side, almost like a bridge abutment to do that.
Because, yeah, you need the water to pass through, right?
Yeah, you know, and I mean,
You don't put
sometimes-
in a temporary culvert or anything.
No,
You just,
no. I mean, if it's like a,
because you have, it's like Lincoln logs or whatever. You just put like this and then,
exactly, it's
Okay.
kind of, yeah. You know, and a lot of these streams too are kind of, they're not deeply entrenched, so they're kind of, they don't have like at least in the right of way, it's not like they're like down in a 4-foot channel, you know, that you could just easily put a board over and go right over, so you kind of have to build up and around it, so.
and this is a fairly, from the pictures in the packet, it's a, you know, first order little
Yeah, yeah.
stream
pretty
at this
small,
location.
Pretty small, yeah, exactly.
Or does it not even really have a channel in the,
It's not well defined in the right of way at all.
depending on the time of year, there might be
yeah.
very little flow in
Yeah.
July.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, I was just out there to take these photos 2 weeks ago, and it was tough to tell where the channel was in the wetland within the right of way. So.
Oh, so these are April 27th, those are,
Yeah.
that's when you actually took them, yeah.
Yep. So you're probably right by, you know, July, August, might, hopefully, it will be
Yeah,
a
it's
little
it's
drier.
a channel over by the forest, but
Yeah.
once you get out
Yeah,
beyond
not
that,
really.
it just kind of disappears.
Exactly,
Yeah.
that's what I found.
Okay, why don't, so for the, let's take the wetland conditional use permit first. You've provided a good summary here. So there are, looks like there's in the table on page 8 of our packet, there's 4 different impact oh no, there's really just 3 different impact areas. A total over 7,000 feet of direct wetland impact and 26,000 square feet of buffer impact.
It's temporary, right?
All temporary.
Yep, all temporary.
And so we can just go through these 8 or 9 conditions that we have. 8. I don't know that you need to read them. But the first one is that the proposed use is permitted in the underlying zoning district. The short answer is yes. I would say it is permitted. No alternative design which does not impact a wetland buffer or which has less detrimental impact on the wetland or wetland buffer is feasible. Regarding that, the only thing that I saw is, if you came in off 101, but what you said earlier regarding the guardrail and the embankment and the traffic and all that, I understand that would create other problems for you, but it would avoid one of the major wetland crossings.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say it's probably because there's a guardrail there, there's no break right on 101. I would have a hard time believing DOT would allow us to actually come off the highway.
And
at
101
that
is a limited
location.
access road, so you can't just do that for any reason at all.
Right.
Did use the other side last year, but it was a little bit different of a story, and I'll tell you that was like months and months of back and forth with DOT to finally allow us to do that. But that was no guardrail, it was well off the road. This one, there's guardrail, it's right on the embankment. I feel like that, District 6, which is the jurisdictional office that oversees 101 in this area, is tough to work with, and I feel like they're gonna just flat out say no on doing that.
Okay.
So that's why we kind of, we do DOT permitting, and we looked at that, and we just looked at the location, and we thought, safety-wise, I think it would be a major concern of theirs, and, us to be, there's not much shoulder there until you drop down to that structure in the wetland, so it'd be difficult to manage.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sold on, it's hard to work with DOT. I mean, I get that, it's a pain for you, but I'm more sympathetic to the safety concerns than the pain in the butt factor. But I'd say I can't think of any other alternative designs which would reduce impacts. I don't know. I guess I'm okay with condition 2. I don't know if other people feel like there's alternative approaches here. Wetland scientist has provided an impact evaluation that includes function and values of the wetland and an assessment of potential project-related impacts, and concluded, to the extent feasible, the proposed impact is not detrimental to the value and function of the wetlands. So you do have a wetland. Are you a wetland scientist?
I am.
Yeah, you
Yep.
stamped this. You're
Correct.
correct. That's right. And I don't see any major functions and values impacts, as these are temporary. And it's being done at a time of year when it's drier. If this was March or something, it would be harder project, but it seems like you're doing this at the right time of year. There is some things in here we haven't talked about in terms of habitat. This is a prime wetland, the one off near Pine Road in Brentwood between 101. So I don't know if you want to speak just for a minute about sort of the
Sure.
Excuse me a second.
Yeah. so-
wildlife habitat.
Sure. So yeah, on the other side of Pine Road, where we were last year, is the Deer Hill Wildlife Management Area. It's, I think, town of Brentwood, I think, maintains or owns, I'm not entirely sure, but that area was created as part of mitigation of, I think, Route 101 way back in the day. It used to be a gravel pit, and it was a wetland creation project. So there's a lot of open water components
Didn't know
over
that.
there. and scrub shrub, emergent habitat. So we dealt with that last year because we were right on it. But this year, so we did do a data check with the Natural Heritage Bureau regarding, rare species, and we're currently actively consulting with Fish and Game. So Natural Heritage Bureau didn't identify any rare plants or exemplary natural communities. Fish and Game has a number of rare turtles and the northern black racer, which is a snake that was identified within the vicinity of the work. So we're working with them to basically alleviate their concerns. And often how we do that is we adhere to a number of, conditions that when we reach out to them, we work with to develop. And that's trainings with the crews, distributing the flyers, Fish and Game flyers for turtles and snakes that give a good description, photo of the rare species, reporting requirements, emphasizing that, prompt reporting if something is encountered. We also, we implement daily sweeps, visual sweeps of work areas by the crews prior to them starting work to ensure that there's not a turtle like basking on timber matting before they start driving out there. We do our weekly visit. We'll do sort of a sweep as well and make sure that while we're out there, we talk with them to see how that's going, if there's been any rare species or any observations. And then the other piece of it, which is probably going to come out of this year, is often we kind of implement wildlife exclusion fencing that will sort of perimeter out our work area that prevents turtles and snakes from entering that space while we're working. So greatly reduces the risk of, a turtle or something getting crushed. So we're working with them. So that's ongoing, and as part of our DES submittal, we're required to complete that consultation, provide conditions before we can even submit the DES permit. So we plan to do that, and it's kind of, we're working through that now. So does that answer your question?
Yeah,
pretty much.
I think
Okay.
that was good.
Cool.
Yeah, it is I guess we may have more knowledge of that. Certainly we have more knowledge with all the trail access issues off Captain's Way in that area, but it does seem like that is a high value wetland over there off 101. But
Yeah.
certainly not a place any of us have been.
Is there a protocol for flushing things out when placing the matting down?
It's kind of the visual sweeps too, to do that ahead of placing the mats. That's kind of what the typical protocol is to get on the ground, out of the equipment and kind of do a walk through the area, just take the time to do that. And so contractors often do that. We often do that, during our first visit, our training. When we're out there, I'll do a walkover of everything and, just kind of from my perspective. But, often if like a species is encountered, they're supposed to kind of, stop work and call us, immediately and try and get a photo if they can and sort of a location. And then we kind of go from there and we do the reporting to Fish and Game, so. But, certainly if there's something in the work area, we do typically pick it up or, if it's a turtle, move it out of the work area and towards the edge of the right of way in whatever direction it was headed so that we just, get it out of there. And so.
Okay. So regarding the functions and wetlands functions and values impacts, I'm not sure what else we can add here. It seems like sort of is what it is. And this won't be detrimental. And it will rebound quite quickly. Okay, item 4 is that the design, construction, and maintenance of the proposed use will, to the extent feasible, minimize detrimental impacts on the wetland or wetland buffer. I think your answer here includes the BMP manual and other things we've discussed. I think I'm satisfied with that based on this conversation. Number 5, that the proposed use will not create a hazard to individual or public health, safety, and welfare due to the loss of wetland, the contamination of groundwater, or other reasons. I think the main safety thing we've touched on earlier was regarding closing the trail access during the work and coordinating that with Eversource. So as long as we do that, I think it may involve physical signs as well as posting to our Conservation Commission Facebook page, maybe even on the town website we've posted things, or the Fort Rock Riders. I don't know if Toby or Dave would post something on that. I mean, that would help get the word out. And obviously, this is a safety-related project, so. Okay. Number 6 is the applicant may propose an increase in wetland buffer elsewhere. That doesn't really, 6 isn't really applicable to this project. 7, in cases where the proposed use is temporary or where the construction activity disturbs areas adjacent to the immediate use, the applicant has included a restoration proposal revegetating any disturbed area within the buffer with the goal to restore the site to nearly as possible to its original grade and condition following construction. We haven't talked about grading, but you indicate there's no grading proposed, and the restoration will go on similar to how you've talked about here.
Yeah, I mean, typically the timber matting with the tracked equipment and upland matting eliminates the need to grade. Sometimes around the structures, there's some grading that's completed, again, only in upland areas to allow the equipment, and crews to safely stage while they're replacing the structure. Not often do we find a perfectly flat area around these structures, so some work is needed, but those areas are restored to a condition post-construction which involves, reducing that footprint, loaming and seeding, straw mulching, and so.
How are the old structures managed? Are they completely removed, or are they cut to the ground?
Yeah, typically the ones in wetlands are not usually removed out of the ground. They'll just cut it to the ground surface and leave the butt in the ground because it's, again, minimize disturbance. I believe the upland structures are usually fully pulled out, and taken somewhere off-site for disposal, so.
That's a good point. They don't just throw them down on the right away.
No.
Oh, right.
They go somewhere, pole graveyard somewhere. I don't know where that is, but.
Okay. And the last one is, number 8, is regarding the pulling state permits, which you have indicated you're in the process of doing. Okay, so those are all the criteria for the wetland conditional use permit. Do we have any other concerns? Kristen, you've been awfully quiet over there. Do you have any comments?
Concerns or comments other than the coordination closure?
Okay.
Seems pretty straightforward. Personally, I was both surprised and impressed with how much the area recovered last time they were in there. So it was really my first experience seeing the timber matting in what I considered a pretty sensitive wetland. So
Same at Rains Farm. I mean, I felt like I was pretty nervous for that whole work because it impacted us that fall when we were trying to do activities, but it happened and it was okay.
Right.
So.
Yep.
Yeah, between the timber matting, the sediment controls, the time of the year that it is, it does seem pretty straightforward, so.
Resident expert Connor Madison, you need to say something.
I was going to recuse myself from this one.
Okay, you can
Yeah.
do that.
I mean, yeah, so I work with Jeremy a lot, doing the exact same thing with towns. I went to Dover last year. They know what they're doing. We have it down pat.
Mr. Chair, I move that we recommend approval of the conditional use permits, conditional use permits in the wetlands for this project.
Second.
Okay,
Can I make a suggestion to amend with the condition that they coordinate trail closures with Kristen or whoever the designated person is from the Concom?
I'll add that to my motion.
And my second.
I forgot to add that. Thank you.
okay. Any other? So let's vote. Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed? All right, the motion carries. We've approved the wetland conditional use permit, so we'll draft a memo to the planning board regarding that recommendation. The other one is regarding the Shoreland conditional use permit. And this is regarding that one stream west of Captain's Way. There's, according to the application, approximately 7,300 square feet of temporary impact within the 150-foot shoreline buffer zone for this perennial stream. There are conditions here. There's five different conditions. I guess let's go through those quick as well, and then we can vote. The proposed use will not detrimentally affect the surface water quality of the adjacent river or tributary, or otherwise result in unhealthful conditions. I guess regarding that, I don't know that we need to read through all this. Based on all this conversation, there will be enough sediment control to, I guess turbidity, if they kick up enough turbidity, that would be my concern, but there's going to be sufficient sediment control to prevent that type of, it's pretty easily preventable, particularly in this case where it's likely going to be an issue. The only thing that would come up, I would think, would be if there was some significant precipitation event while this work is ongoing. So I don't know if you have those type of stop work type situations where you're in the middle of something and there's ground disturbance and you have a 2-inch rainfall.
Yeah, I think often if we get that level of rain, they're often not out there. They'll just stop work or they won't work that day. It's just not, ideal conditions for them to do that work in anyways. So typically I haven't seen them, if something significant's forecasted, then they're not, they avoid it. We'll also, a lot of times, we kind of base our inspections around, rain events, weather events. So if we see something that week in the forecast, then we may time our visit either during, just prior to or during the event if they are out there. So that's often the best time you can see what's going on and how everything's holding up and where the drainage is going and everything like that. So it's usually how we deal with those types of things, but they're far and few between most of the time, although it'll happen more often, I think, in years to come, more frequent.
Okay, that sounds reasonable. B, the proposed use will discharge no wastewater on site other than normally discharged by domestic wastewater disposal systems. This doesn't really apply to you. I guess the only thing I'm thinking about is following BMPs about refueling of vehicles. I assume you're,
That's not wastewater.
right. But,
Yeah, there's a whole slew of BMPs for that, you know, refueling, that's done, you know, in uplands away from wetlands, typically on an impervious surface, which would be either the portion of the access trail or closer to the road, you know, and then there's a whole procedure if there's any spills, you know, reporting procedure. So those guys are pretty, again, similar to the environmental side, they're pretty used to that, you know, and if something happens, then they're really good about usually immediately reporting it, so. But yeah, we definitely don't allow them to refuel on mats in a wetland or anything like that, so.
okay, yeah, there's no septic systems here or any other disposal, so. Item C, the proposed use will not result in undue damage to spawning grounds or other wildlife habitat. This again is related to this tributary, and I don't.
Yeah, I
see.
think we're gonna, in terms of spawning grounds, I don't think that's applicable in terms of, we don't really have any potential risk there, and as I mentioned previously, we're still, you know, we're working with Fish and Game to clear that hurdle in terms of the rare species and making sure that they're happy and confident with what we're doing out there. So, and the protocols we're implementing.
Yeah, so there were some, you did get some T&E species based on the NHB data checks, how does it, pied-billed grebe?
Yeah, actually, I forgot about that one, pied-billed grebe, which is it's not a mallard, but it's a bird, and it's kind of a water species. So I think that popped up because of the Deer Hill Management Wildlife Area and the open water components over there. I think that's where those records were concentrated.
Oh, from the other, but that's
Yeah.
not this, okay.
Yeah, so we're not on that side of the road this year, so in none of the wetlands that we were working in has any kind of habitat that's preferred by that species, which would be like, you know, access to open water and, you know.
Right.
So that's kind of in our consultation with Fish and Game, we're working to kind of, you know, again, express that we've determined that habitat for that species doesn't exist within our work area this year.
Yeah,
We don't-
it doesn't seem to be that high quality of a work area there.
Yeah.
In terms of habitat.
Yeah.
Okay. The proposed use complies with use regulations identified in Article 934 Exeter Shoreline Pedestrian District Ordinance and all other applicable sections of the article, which it does. And lastly, the design and construction of the proposed use will be consistent with the intent of the purposes set forth in Article 931 Exeter Shoreline Protection District Ordinance, authority and purpose. So it is consistent with the intent of this ordinance for the maintenance of this transmission line. Does anyone have any other concerns about this one? Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the shoreline conditional use permit. Or we recommend to the planning board to approve the shoreline conditional use permit.
Nice catch.
I'll second.
Okay. Any other comments? Otherwise, we'll take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye?
Aye.
All those opposed? And Connor's abstaining?
Yes, please.
Okay. All right, the motion passes. So that would be
Running like a dog.
6-0 for Dan who's reviewing the minutes right now.
Great, thanks, guys.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you,
thanks
Chris.
for seeing us.
Yep.
Sure, we'll be back. See you next time.
Okay, all right.
Same thing that'd be.
We'll be back, yeah, and we'll be in touch when you have that scheduled.
Permitting for them also.
Okay.
So your competitors.
Yeah, he's our main competitor.
Keep each other honest.
Yeah, it feels real good watching. I feel useless when they come in.
All right. Well, we have a few more things to get through. Before we get on with the other action items, I felt remiss and just felt like last time I failed to mention that Tom Patterson, I may not have mentioned that he's no longer on our commission. He needed to do some other things, so I want to thank Tom for his work the last 2 years on the commission. And also, we just found out that Kristen Osterwood is also no longer able to participate in the commission. So we want to thank her for the work she's done. I think she joined like right at the start of COVID, and has been an active member, and appreciated all her contributions in the design reviews that we've gone through. So I want to thank both Tom and Kristen Osterwood for their help in the last 2 years. And we have openings, if anyone's listening and wants to join our commission, we could use some more folks. I believe we have 2 vacancies, 3 vacancies actually. I'm looking at it. We have 1 voting member vacancy, so we might want to see if Kyle wants to join us as a voting member. We can move you off the alternate member list. We can talk about that later. I'm not going to put you on the spot, although I just did.
That's fine, I don't, whatever.
Oh, if we did that, that'd be a recommendation that we'd make to the select board.
That would be a recommendation we would make. I'm
Select board
assuming,
make
Bill
it
and
one.
Don, you're happy with your alternate status.
Yes, we're the elderly, the elders.
Bill's very happy, okay.
We're the tribal elders.
I like, all right. You have your own, like, you can have a subcommittee, the tribal elder subcommittee.
So the next select board meeting of the 31st, if you want.
That's good.
Recommendation.
Okay. So if anyone knows anyone who might be a good candidate for us, we do have those 3 vacancies right now. And lastly, I just wanted to also acknowledge the passing of Ann Sermon, who was on our commission as the select board rep for several years recently, maybe 2018, 2019, somewhere in that range. And I always appreciated her thoughtfulness and caring, and it's sad to hear that news about Anne. So I want to thank Anne for all her work and for the town. I know she touched a lot of people here, and I was sad to hear that news. I don't know much more, but I just wanted to say something. So, all right. I don't know if anyone else has anything like that they want to talk about, but you can jump in. For committee, let's talk about, we have a bunch of things to go over. Committee reports. Do we have property management? We have an item, milkweed for White's Meadow.
Yeah, so this, not just the expenditure is what I wanted to talk about, but the project in general. In 2020, there was an opportunity to apply for a seed grant that would, a free milkweed plant grant that would provide free milkweed plants to an area that we designated as a monarch watch station, and we have several in town. Morissette property where we did plantings in 2020, and then White's Meadow is the second one on the east end of the McDonald Conservation Area Complex. So, so I applied, we didn't get it, and they asked me this year if we were interested in resubmitting our application. And so I thought, why not? Maybe we wouldn't get it. I might as well try. But I didn't realize that you were committed to 4 flats of plants. And so we were actually selected, but before I move forward with that, that ends up being something on the order of 160 plants, and it's a mix, 164 plants, and it's a mix of swamp milkweed and then the common milkweed. But for those who did help, Allison, I know you were there, Drew, I think you came out for planting at Morissette. You know, it's labor intensive for the initial planting. You have to prep the site because the field is pretty well established, and to give the milkweed kind of a fighting chance, that really should have, in my opinion, we should have kind of cleared a larger area. Bill, you came too. But, so before I think we even get to the expenditure request, I'd love to hear whether there's interest on behalf of the commission. I'm willing to help. We had a water buffalo out there last time and hauled water weekly for quite a few months throughout the growing season, or throughout the summer, because we ended up in a drought year. And so, and this year doesn't look like it's gonna be any better at this point. So before we accept it, I thought I would check in with the commission and see what your feelings are. White's Meadow is just bizarre to me in that there isn't any milkweed patches. It's been managed as kind of this grassland meadow for many years. I can't remember when the Conservation Commission took it over. I don't have the year off the top of my head, Don, but for many years it's been late season mowing, and so it's kind of surprising the mix of species that are lacking from that area. And so it seemed like a good opportunity to supplement what's out there, but it's a lot of plants. And so, so is that something the commission wants to take on? Obviously, I'm willing to help and take a significant burden of that load, but I can't do it all.
Well, how do the plants come?
So they're in flats, and they're,
Are they just plugs?
yeah,
So it's tiny.
they're very
And
small.
how close do you plant them on center?
So they want no more clusters than, so in clusters of 6, basically, is what you have to commit to planting.
So they
3
don't,
to 6, I think. So you don't want a whole patch of milkweed.
you want to spread it.
You want it dispersed throughout the field.
And how deep in the ground does it have to
We
be?
didn't have to plant it very deep. They, I'm not sure what these will be, but those were the, like, kind of the triangle shaped,
Mm-hmm.
and so really we just took the hand shovel and kind of made a slice in the ground. That opened it enough and we could mush it back in. So those are the technical approaches to planting guidelines.
Do you
And
have
then
a
to get
sense of the success of the Morissette planting?
Yeah, only rough. So there's lots I would do different from Morissette, but so that was 700 plants that we planted, so significantly more. The field grew up really fast around it, and so it was very hard to keep track, and we did not initially mark where we planted those plants. And so Bill and I and Ginny, or no, Trevor,
I was
you
out
came-
there,
yeah,
yeah.
that's right. Sorry, it's been a while. We went back out and I put pin flags because I was having a hard time keeping up with just the watering. And I would say of the milkweed, not many survived, but a lot of the other species did. So we planted the mountain mint, that did amazing. I was blown away by how well that did. The bergamot did great. But the milkweed, I think, was really stressed because it was so dry, and it was competing so strongly with the plants around there.
White's Meadow is I think, wetter.
I thought we had a couple of good spots. Yeah.
Well, yeah, so it really was not a loss because that property, and I kind of attribute it to that seed ball project that Ginny had with the story walk. There are 3 massive sections of milkweed in Morissette, huge, easily like the open space of this room for the smallest one. And so it really is not concerning that they didn't succeed, because we know we have a seed source out there. So that might be what you're thinking of, Bill. But the individual plants, it was very hard to find many that lasted the year or the season.
So do you think the milkweed patches in Morissette
Okay.
are from Ginny's project?
I really do, because we had looked through that field. So, I don't know, could it have, we also changed mowing practices, so could it have been related to that or not? I don't know.
Because that would be cool, first of all.
Well, it would, and I wish we had the documentation to be able to
I think
really
it
point
is.
to that.
I think it
Well,
was.
and that makes me wonder if we
Within that
shouldn't
area.
just try that at White's Meadow.
Yeah.
That seems less risky and labor intensive. I mean, I'm not opposed to taking
Right.
on these plants because I love the idea of it, but if we think Ginny's method was successful, maybe we should try that.
I am game for either. It's just hard to say. So this is like $450 worth of plants that we'd only have to pay $50 for. So there's like this cheap version of me who's like,
It's a
"We're
deal.
gonna
We
give it out
I
$50
can't afford
an
not to
amount."
buy this.
Right.
Right.
But I agree. I mean, certainly intensity of work. It was pretty huge.
Yeah, well, it's the one thing's the cost, and then it's the time and labor. Yeah. I know, my summer's fairly
In the
busy, and I would be remiss to really commit to getting out to White Meadows consistently to water.
How about offering
Do we
these,
have to,
excuse me, Bill, I'm sorry. How about offering these to the people of Exeter with instructions? Some people might want to have some milkweed, and they got a section of their yard that's wild, and this is a good attractor of butterflies. Maybe we could offer that as to people and say, come and pick up 2 or 3 plants and plant them.
I wish we could.
We could.
But there are requirements for what
Okay.
you can use them for.
All right.
And it's meant to be for habitat restoration, and you have to commit to not distribute them,
Okay, all right.
to areas that are not registered monarch waste, not watch stations,
Yeah.
monarch waste stations, and B, they can't be placed in areas smaller than, I think it's 10 acres or
Okay,
something.
that's fine. No, okay.
With the ALY festival coming up, I was like, ooh.
Yeah, right.
But no.
Are there other places besides those 2, Morissette and?
when would these be coming?
Well, I've kind of put her off for now. They could have come this week, but I wanted to get a sense for people's availability and interest. So I don't know what the next shipment date could be. But, I mean, I think
I'd
these
be
are the
willing
sort-
to volunteer to do some of them.
Yeah. I was just
Can we
gonna
get
say, I
a
feel like
half
reason
order? Or-
is weighing on me, and I feel like the seed approach, you could buy a lot of seeds for you could collect a lot of seeds for free from
Pods.
Morissette and do our seed ball project next year.
Yeah, let's try the seed ball approach.
All right,
And
so
then-
I'll inventory this year, so we'll have a good
Yeah.
pre-seed ball count.
We have other things at the moment we want to focus on, I think.
And
Okay.
it is appearing to start out dry.
Yes.
Although, yeah, I think Don was saying, or Bill was saying that White's Meadow is lower and wetter, so it may actually be better habitat. I mean, that Morissette is like part of it's a field, or it's all a field, and it's pretty well drained, so. It may need less watering, but I think let's not create work for ourselves in this. We can focus on other things this summer.
I think it was saving $50. $50, not losing 400.
He said, think of it as saving $50, not losing 450.
All right.
Okay, thank you. That makes it easy. The other item under property management that I neglected to put on the agenda, so technically we're talking about it under other business, is Rains Farm RFP. So I've not updated you guys on this, I don't believe, and I don't think we talked about it, or I wasn't here at the last meeting.
No, that was right before the meeting, the site meeting we had last time.
So, we had an RFP, we had a site walk scheduled, no one came to the site walk was mandatory. I was ready to just, okay, it didn't matter if it was mandatory, that was sort of a decision I made, and I was waiting to see what we got in terms of submission, and not a single proposal was submitted. And that includes direct mailing to, I think it was 9 individuals, plus the publication in the newspaper. I've called 3 of the 9 people and got voicemails. I feel like I'm getting run around. But got voicemails and left messages, kind of really just to ask for a better understanding for, was it an availability thing? Was it the money available? Was it, what was it about the RFP that kind of encourage them to not apply. And so really I wanted to do that because I don't know where to go from here, to be honest, but I wanted to, there's still some sorting out that we need to do for that. Technically we've done our due diligence from the financial side of it. We could sole source justify to an individual should one of those people call back and say, I'll get you a proposal tomorrow, but I think it's unlikely. So I'm not sure where to go from there, but I thought that you should be aware of where we're at. So that's disappointing. We finally get the money and now we don't have the people. My suspicion is that even though we had very current numbers, it was July before it was July 2021 when we got our estimates of repair needs and material costs. A lot happened in that period in terms of how much supplies cost now, and so that's my suspicion. So I'm going to give it a little bit to see if I can hear back from these others, reach out to the rest of the list, and then contact LCHIP and find out what we do next.
Yeah, your assumption is correct. I know someone who's a builder, and materials cost has skyrocketed in the past 6 months even, and so it's a point that's very difficult, to come in at that price. Also, a lot of builders are committed. There's more work than they can handle right now, so we're in a kind of caught in that vise. So I don't know what to do here. Unless you scale back the work, I'm not sure, how else to approach that.
Yeah, I think a conversation with LCHIP is required. It would be helpful if I knew that, I knew by how far we were off, and then I could say, is there additional money available or not? And if not, can we parse the project down? But we just need to have the conversation. But first, like I said, I want to follow up directly with the rest of the folks on the list.
Because in terms of materials, we could be up by 50% or more.
Yeah, I mean, the numbers we see for building
Yeah.
is crazy.
Someone says it's insane what a price of a 2x4 is cost now. A good one, and that's not even a good one. It's green, $8 for a 2x4, if not more. So.
So there's that. So I'll share all the good news today.
Yeah.
And then that's all I had under property management.
Okay, for trails, we have a trail workday report and expenditure approval for screws.
Oh, well, we did the cut-through bridge 2 weeks ago. So that bridge has been replaced, and it's a nice clean shot from the tunnel up to the top of the trail coming out of the 85 parking lot. Everybody seems happy with it.
Yeah, I went out. It looks good.
We've still got some cleanup we have to do. I've talked to Jay Perkins about that, and we're going to get that all set up and clean up the scraps and all that sort of thing. But yeah, I think the next thing to do is, unfortunately, we don't have the screen, but I was.
I stepped out and printed. But before we leave that,
Yep.
though the wood supplies were donated, right? Or
Scavenged.
Yeah, it has a nice reclaimed feel to some of the boards.
Yeah, no, we.
Yeah,
It
it's
came
great.
from some decks in a condo complex in Kingston, and then some Fort Rock riders transported them over. And so there was actually 2 days of trail work. The first day, what you're walking on now is actually what was the stringers on these decks. So we had to remove all the screws, and so now a lot of the refuse that's still there are they just took a skill saw and just ripped down the deck. So you had the stringer with about this much of a decking on it that you had to kind of get the screws out somehow. But now this section of old kind of decking is kind of sitting there, I think.
Yeah.
And is it at the 101
Yeah.
entrance or?
Yeah, but what's nice about it is, like you just said, with the cost of wood now, like, the only cost was really the screws that people paid for out of their own pocket, I guess.
No, we.
Yeah, so that was what I was gonna bring up. So we do have, an expenditure request for $113.38 to reimburse the purchase of screws used in that project, which is pretty cheap money considering what was saved for
Oh yeah,
wood.
Yeah, it's definitely a.
and I even get a discount there. So.
Wow.
And I'll pass that right on to the town.
Are you looking for a motion?
Yeah, so
To
I would,
approve them all.
or, I don't know.
I'll make that motion for 113.
Seconded.
All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? All right, the motion passes. So,
You wanna pass them?
so now we do have, and
One
so,
side is a broad view and the other side is zoomed in.
so we're, I guess, continuing. We're now looking at the trail network out at Oakland. So it should, if you orient it, so north is at the top, the writing's sort of upside down. No, I'm wrong. North is right side up.
Depends which side we were looking at now. Which side of this trail? Drew, hold up and which side you're looking at.
So one of them, the broader view shows
Oh, okay.
101 at the bottom.
All right.
You can see a little peak of 101, and that's the broader view of the trail network. And then the other side is zoomed in just north of the tunnel. So it's this section on the broader view, it's a zoom in of this section.
I like the zoom in section because I think we should just attack one area at a time.
Yeah. So this new planking is, I didn't know, this has a name, Jim Bob?
No, it's not even on here, actually.
Yeah, it is.
It's Jim Bob.
No, the trail, Jim Bob is the trail that was put into
Oh, the go around.
the go around.
Okay, so it isn't on here.
When the other one fell apart. No, so the cut through is not.
The
not
cut through is,
Cut through would be
To the
almost
right.
parallel to Jim Bob,
Kinda, yeah.
to the east of it.
and to the east of it, yeah.
Yeah.
It would come out just before Hamburger Hill.
So we've talked about this section on this close zoomed in map. I guess it's gotten brought up before. But, and then Dave, there was a rogue trail that was brought up? Do you know where that trail?
That was starting to go in, actually Kyle caught this one, before I did. It was starting to go in next to where the new plank bridge went in, somebody thought that that might be a better way to do it.
Okay.
But that got stopped and it's gone away. That's not an issue anymore. So the question right now is how to clean up some of this little trashy stuff that doesn't really have a reason to exist between what's labeled demoralizer and BLT South. And then also that dotted line coming up by Jim Bob, that comes down and then parallels the highway. That's a pretty blown out trail, and if Jim Bob's gonna stay, then I think that trail could and probably should be closed down. And then when you get up a little further, you've got those little cut-throughs there between BLT South and Demoralizer, and they're just not all needed.
Yeah, it's essentially the trail is sort of braided in there, and there's like little
Yeah.
hills that goes around, and some of them might be like there's this trail like where the table is, and then there's another trail
Yeah.
like at the back of the room.
It's crazy.
So I mean that's sort of the scale we're talking about is, and then there's little connectors, and some of them there's more than actually what's on here because there's interfingering between
Well,
those trails.
I'd like to see us go in there and basically just establish, at least for the moment, BLT South and Demoralizer with maybe one connection. And then close down the rest of them.
I think you still need one connection.
Oh, yeah, they have to connect with each other, absolutely. And I'd have to go back out, because I don't think the best connection is necessarily the furthest one up either. I think we'd have to go out there and,
Yeah.
some of them are better than others. But
Yeah, and yeah, this
pick
map,
one.
you can't really pick things. It really would involve a site visit, I think, to look at this area to,
Yeah,
but I think I mean, somebody could start brushing. I mean, what it's actually gonna involve is going out there and pulling brush out of the woods and then placing it on these cut-throughs.
And it
Isn't
might
that, I mean,
it
isn't
might-
that ultimately the only solution?
that, and I think it might require some signage too.
Some
Just
sign-
to explain to people, because there's gonna be people that are gonna be stubborn about it, and I think it's gonna take hitting them upside the head a few times to, get the point across that, let's clean this up a little bit.
I feel like maybe a first step is to get them off of all trails,
What's that?
just to get them off of the online maps, like of the trail map, like all trails.
Oh,
This
trail
came
for
from Trail Forks.
Yeah.
Trail forks, yeah, like get them, just so that people that don't know the area don't say, oh, there's a trail on my GPS.
Yeah.
Can
Yeah.
you do that? Can you pull trails off of?
Yeah. Yeah, Accelerate was just pulled off. So,
That's a good idea.
yeah, there is an administrator for this area for Trail Forks who can accept or decline or remove trails from Trail Forks. But, if everybody agrees to the simplification, I'd like to just, get at least kind of a thumbs up to proceed with trying to clean that area up and take some of the confusion out of it, and also just let it kind of revegetate and get a little healthier in there.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're in agreement, we've talked about this, so I don't think you need anything more from us regarding trying to simplify out there.
No, I'm just trying to keep everybody informed about
Yep,
what's happening.
Well, and I think getting it off all trails makes a ton of sense. Dave, is that something?
That's a
you
great
could-
idea. That's a great idea.
Yeah, can you be the point person for that? Like who contacts the administrator?
I contact the person who can contact the
Okay.
administrator, yeah.
Is Toby, is that, it's
Knows
not
the guy,
Toby,
knows the guy.
Yeah, Toby would,
is the administrator?
no,
No,
there's another guy is, but Toby, he's got his contact info.
okay.
And Toby also is on board with getting the Fort Rock Riders involved and publicizing the fact that we're gonna do this and all that sort of thing too.
Yeah, and it makes sense, we have different trail users who want different things, and Toby was talking about it, and sort of, there's the original trail, which maybe it was a hiking trail, and it's gotten eroded, and that's the A line, and now there's bikers going, and that original trail isn't necessarily the easiest thing to go on, so they go around the edge, or they go, like, they scoot around a rock in through the woods, and that becomes the new B line,
Right.
they called. So you have the A and the B, and that then expands, and then the B, you can have a B, then the B sometimes become an A, because that becomes the most trafficked way, and then you get a side off of that one, and so
And that
it
happens-
promotes this
and that-
spreading, and I think with all the bikers, it's promote, in this area is like a prime example of where it's kind of running amok, because people aren't staying on the trail, and they're taking these little B trails.
Well, and
So-
it happens in areas that hold water too.
Right.
You'll see it
Yeah,
I
it
saw it up
happens
on
right in
Jolly-
muddy spots.
on Jolly Rand.
Yeah, on Jolly Rand, it's happening where it's
I went and
muddy.
checked that out, and
Yeah.
that that's really just there was drainage work. You can see drainage work was done there at one time, and it's basically the drainage ditches have filled in with leaves over the years, so the water isn't releasing from those low points.
Right,
And then there's one low point that I don't see where it would ever have released to, because there's just no place around it that's lower.
yeah,
So that could actually use a small bridging also.
yeah, I think that one spot should get a bridging area.
Kind of near that intersection.
Yeah, where there's that,
Because I think the other ones could be made to drain.
yeah, or just try and avoid them. I mean, they're fine now, it was just mud season is now.
Well, and the other thing was they were full of leaves.
Yeah,
And they were, so, not only was the drain going out of them clogged with leaves, but the leaves themselves were retaining the moisture in the low
Yeah.
spot. So it was getting ground in and all churned up, but now that it's dry, to get those out of there would be a good idea, that and the
get the leaves out.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know how you would, but,
If we could just go back though to.
yeah, let's stay focused on Oakland's.
Well, I wish I could put this out, but this is the heat map for that area, which the more intense here is, that's the trail that everybody pretty much uses. And you see this right here is the side of lettuce, the blue on the map there that it's called,
Yeah,
which is terrible. Like, it goes through, like, water, it's got trees down, like, the only reason that people take it, I think, is because when you come up, there's a turn in the trail that you're supposed to go on, but this trail goes straight, this side of
Straight.
lettuce, and so if you don't know the area, you don't know the turn, and I think you go, and then all of a sudden, you're walking your bike or something, but you can see that most of the people don't do it, and this is the trail that you walked,
yes,
same thing.
that's what I was gonna say, this trail
You're
that
on-
I found is,
If you're on Strava, that's
Yeah.
probably you.
it's
because-
people going straight, they're coming up BLT South and they go straight, and the trail makes a major dogleg right. And then they go and they realize, oh, that's not the trail, and they walk back, and there's actually a real trail there, so I brushed it in
Right.
to
Well,
try and keep
I
people
think you
out
could
of it.
Probably,
And yeah,
Maybe they try to connect, I don't know.
yeah, and that's what I
Many
was
people.
thinking, could you connect a demoralizer? I was like, is someone actually building this, or is this just incidental people
No,
going
I think
straight?
it was well-intentioned. It was done, it was started, and it didn't used to go all the way down to pile driver. It was started a few years ago by some people that were well-intentioned, but didn't understand that they shouldn't build it down into a low area, and
Okay,
it just
So-
got junky. And
so let's close side of lettuce. I mean, that's
Yeah,
that's
that-
a no-brainer. If it's not even a good riding path,
It would need a lot of work.
we should close side of lettuce.
What is it you're using that generates heat maps? Is that
Strava, yeah.
Does it also show the connections between BLT South and
They're,
Hillside?
they're close enough together that it's all
It's
kind of
it's a
within
fuzzy,
the accuracy of the GPS. It's a section.
but it does
here.
show an area where there's extended use in the whole area. You know, it's wider there, the swath, the heat map swath there is wider
It's just, yeah.
than other areas, which makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, you can see people, if you're on one trail, who are on the other, so, you know.
And we do need to connect back and forth there for those versus
What's that?
just any of the purple ones.
Yeah,
Like,
Yeah.
I
there's
think
a
you do
need
need to connect.
I'd have to go back in there again, because there are a couple logical ones that could be chosen, and I just don't remember off the top of my head which one it is, but maybe Kyle and I could go back up there and pick one and say, okay, this is going to be the permanent connection, we're gonna close everything else down. If you trust our judgment.
Will that
I do.
judgment include like wetness and stuff, I would assume, so yeah.
Oh, yeah. No,
The wetness in those trails is actually to the south of Demoralizer.
yeah. That's where the marshes are.
The BLT south is high, significantly higher than Demoralizer, and it's just a hill between them. And so a lot of those lines are just people riding down like rocks and jumping off stuff and, you know, the natural features.
Yeah, not as much, but
Yeah, some of it which won't be,
a little later.
it's not as straightforward as like putting a log across it. Yeah. Because there's quite a bit of terrain in that area.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's something that almost needs to become a trail day, you know, where we'll get 10 guys or something and go in there and just go to town and,
Yeah. Well, it sounds like closing side of lettuce might be that could be something more doable potentially. And or just trail. It brings up the whole, like, we don't have great, there is the BLT South is the red trail. I don't know if more blazing or arrows or something to help show the way would help, but.
well, it's pretty obvious that that's the trail.
I
Yeah.
think there was a recommendation for, there was a specific site, I can go back in the minutes, but where red blazes were needed, and I think it was BLT South, someone,
Wasn't
when
that,
Toby was here.
wasn't it all
was talking
done
about.
the last time the red trail got done?
No, it was just wasn't Toby here just,
A month
Yeah, it
ago,
was
maybe?
like in March when we didn't
Yeah.
have any.
that's when it came up, because it's in
Yeah.
the minutes, I know. I had it on my mental list, but I can't remember where.
Yeah, there's
Well, whoever did the red trail blazing on the rest of the trail did a really nice job. Maybe they could do this.
They did.
Yeah, that's the new cut.
Yeah.
Cool.
And that's the one we should close.
Maybe on one of these nice spring days.
Okay, well, let's keep checking in on this stuff, but I don't know that we need to keep.
But what was like center cut and, our center cut and Bob? Jim Bob is the plank one, right?
No,
No.
that
That's
was,
center cut.
Oh, center cut.
Center
the
cut is the
one.
plank. There's a trail west of Jim Bob that should be closed.
the
Seems like
the dotted line there.
the dotted line.
The
and-
dotted line actually merges with Jim Bob down off the page, and Jim Bob runs part of the way up the side of the fence by the highway, and then breaks off and comes back onto the map. Yeah.
I think that's also at a right turn in the trail, so it's possible a lot of the people using that don't know they're doing it, not doing it. If you look at it here, this is the dashed one.
Right.
Yeah, see, 'cause
Compared to, this is Jim Bob right here, and this is center cut.
So you mean like they're heading south and they go around that U and just continue? Is that what you?
I mean, when they're coming up Jim Bob,
Oh.
the trail makes kind of a right turn, and that dash line goes straight. And so if you're not really paying attention, you could keep going up.
Yeah, so a few arrows and some brush might,
Yeah, it
That-
wouldn't take much.
an arrow and a
brush.
brush could close that.
that would be an easy one to close off, yeah.
Yeah. So that and the side of lettuce seem pretty easy to close, and then the other interconnections, I think that'll take more work, but should be addressed.
I guess just also, just in general, like, I don't know how you can really quantify it, but the number of people that are using the trail system right now, and not just riders, like, you see a ton of, like, families and people hiking and dog walking. Like, it's gotta be a factor of 4 times more now since COVID started, I think, of people that are out there. Like, just tonight, there must have been 30 cars parked at the circle by 3CI of people out mountain biking, and
Wow.
I guess it's good and bad, right? I mean, the amount of use the trails are getting is impressive.
And the parking lot numbers are declining, right, with deer trees closed, and if they're enforcing Captain's Meadow, no parking.
Oh, yeah.
Well, people are definitely cluing in to that if they have a big group, that 3CI in the evenings and on the weekends doesn't really bother anybody.
That's good. That is definitely the prime,
Plenty of
best
parking, they just park right along the street there, and people are really, nobody parks in the 3CI parking lot, which I don't know that they mind. They don't have anything posted.
I'm glad to see that they haven't,
Right,
you know,
so that's
'cause-
great that they respect that.
because he's been tremendous. I mean, you don't hear a peep out of him about people coming through his parking lot all the time, and, but I think people have been, by and large, because I'm up there a lot, and I think by and large, people have been pretty respectful of his space, so.
yeah, I mean, when we approved that,
Was a part of a condition.
it was, I mean, I think he was even saying, yeah, park in the lot, and no one
Yeah.
really does.
Well, I didn't like that idea.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that,
think dog walkers tend to park there, and then everybody else parks out in the
Yeah.
street.
yep.
Anyways.
So,
Okay, well, that was good. So, thanks to Dave again for all that, work out there, getting that done. Let's talk about the Alewife Festival. We have a big event Saturday. It's here, it's upon us. It's supposed to be like hot even on Saturday. I saw there was a high of 88 forecasted for Saturday, which is like almost like a heat advisory or something.
Especially with how it's been.
Yeah,
Which makes sense because we planned it for the morning to avoid peak heat.
so yes. So we're gonna be good. So do you wanna tell us, Kristen, what's going on?
So, I mean, you've heard me talk about the festival before, but
Yeah.
from 9 to 1 at Founders Park, we're bringing back the Alewife Festival. We have a number of activities that are scheduled, and then dispersed viewing of some environmental tables from the Conservation Commission and other volunteer boards in town, which is exciting, a great way to get the boards, have an opportunity to interact with the public. So the events are, the way the morning will start is some welcome remarks, and then we will have New Hampshire Fish and Game present to show some native New Hampshire fish. So they'll have some fish in hand, hopefully, if they can get them. And then we will announce the winner of the Run Date Alewife, the Alewife Run Date contest. And that winner will win a kayak. So it'll be exciting to see who wins. And then that will be followed by we were also holding a contest for the Alewife mascot. It's a costume contest. And so those who submitted costumes will parade down the walkway, runway, model runway style, showing off their costumes. I've seen one of them and it's phenomenal, so I'm really excited to see what people have put together. And then I think at that point we are just dispersed to different tables. There's all sorts of fun activities at the tables. It's really exciting to see what the committees have developed. And then the festival itself at Founders Park, there'll be t-shirts, a link so you could buy t-shirts. They're available now. If you want to buy them off of the website, you can order them and print them on demand. I'll be selling $10 pint glasses that are custom event pint glasses, and those pint glasses will get you a free beer at Sawbelly that throughout the day. And then at 1:30, we will have a kayak tour led by Exeter Squamscott Local Advisory Committee and the Great Bay Piscataqua Waterkeeper, and Kyle has agreed to help from the Concom, so that is great. That will be at the town boat ramp starting at 1:30, and that should be an outgoing tide, so save your energy for the paddle back. But a short kayak, so it won't be too strong. I think the plan is to go down to Public Works so that you can view the wastewater treatment plant, and there's some talk about that. That will happen, some sites along the way, and then turn around and come back. If people want to continue, and they're welcome to, but I think they're going to judge the crowd based on what individuals want.
Yeah, I talked to Eric Turner, and I had a Zoom discussion yesterday briefly about the paddle and the highlights, and pointing out different areas and so forth. And yeah, it's basically going to go down to that area where the DPW, where the wastewater treatment plant is, and maybe a side trip, maybe or not, up Wheelwright Creek, which is right there too. So, and as I said, people can go from there, but basically that's going to be, there's a short paddle, but it stops along the way, and it's leisurely, and then coming back. So I think it's got it well planned out. It's going to be a beautiful day.
Yeah, if it is that warm, it'll feel amazing.
And cloudy.
Right.
I don't know, I just looked again and it's changed again.
Yeah, who knows?
So then from 4 to 6, the Sustainability Advisory Committee is hosting an environmental film festival at Town Hall. Those are primarily local films, so they'll be showing a film about climate in New Hampshire that DES put out. There's a film about the wastewater treatment plant upgrades. There's something from Exeter TV where Bob Glowacki filmed along the Squamscott River, and 2 more that I'm forgetting. But anyway, so it should be a really full day. Hopefully a lot of stuff is coming together, and fingers crossed the weather will hold. I'm gonna recruit my husband so as people are coming to Founders Park to drop off their supplies, he'll meet folks over at the main parking lot and shuttle you back, so you don't have to run back to get back in time, to make it a little bit easier for the people who are setting up tables. And that way that'll allow more parking around the library, and be less impactful. We will have a food truck there for a portion of it. Darian, who is in here helping, she will do, she is a singer, and so she will be performing in the morning, and then Green Heron, Drew got from, tell me again, 11 to 1. 11
12 to 1?
12 to 1, right, 12 to 1. So, yeah, it should be great.
The flyer says kids' activities. Do we know what the specific kids' activities are?
The public, so the
Got it
library,
down.
in addition to, a lot of the tables have activities for kids, like the tree committee, they're melting crayons and using silicone molds into leaves, and then, so you can make your own crayons. But the more formalized one is the public library. Denise Fears is putting on a whole kids' activity section right up in the room that's right off of Founders Park. I can't think, is that the children's room or the children's
Yes.
activity room?
It is. I think it was. I'm not
So
sure if
they're
it
gonna
still is.
open
Yeah.
that up and have stuff.
Nice.
Yeah.
That'd be a good use of that space right there.
Yeah. And then some other like small things that kids can do, like not stickers, but stamps and some other things at different tables. Yeah.
So I'm supposed to give a spiel, apparently.
Yes.
I did, in the research so far, I've seen both of you guys in videos about the dam removal
Oh, yeah.
and stuff like that, but if there were any talking points that I should be sure to include, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll send you those. And then something from your list with Eric, Don, was more than what I had sent you, Kyle, so I need to look at that.
Okay, and also if anybody wants to borrow a double kayak, or I have a single and a double, more than welcome to.
And is it just open? Anyone who shows up can go?
Yeah, we're not pre-registering, but we will have folks sign a waiver. And you need to have a life jacket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have, for our tent, maybe we can talk about what we're doing a little more. So I got from DES on loan, I'm gonna be doing this groundwater model. It's a little flow model.
Cool.
So it's like a cross-sectional view showing where pretend little wells and septic systems, and there's a little pump, and so I don't know if we've figured out power or not.
We're gonna need a long,
Extension cord.
Yeah.
Okay, I can bring a long.
Or I might switch a couple.
I could do it without the pump, if it ends up being, it's not a total game changer, but it just
Okay.
sort of changes how I have to manage it, so it can work either way.
Okay.
But there's, this, it's filled with water and it drains, and then you can add dye and watch, like, so if you had a contamination, like an underground, there's a little underground storage tank, and so you can put dye in that and see how groundwater flows. So it's pretty neat. And then there's a river and a lake, and you can see how, you can have lakes and rivers that receive, that, are groundwater's discharging into those bodies and then flowing out. So it's a neat, for all ages, kids or adults, just to try and visualize how water's moving in the ground. And then for Trevor's gonna run the Enviroscape model. You wanna talk about that?
Sure. So it's a small model with like a little farm and a little neighborhood, and a little pond has little waterways, and it has like different elevations, and it sort of shows like a watershed scale of like, being able to put some, like little drops of food coloring, or little like ice cream jimmies or whatever all over the thing, and then you spray it with some water, and you like watch how the water moves around in a watershed and down into the pond. So like you say, like, well, if there's pollution here, or if the farmer over fertilizes, and then you see what happens when it all comes down into the bottom of the watershed, and talking about the benefits of conserving land and what we do here and how it affects the Squamscott, so on.
So you both need water.
So both need water. Yeah, and not a ton of it,
Not a
just,
lot.
no.
You just need it for the spray bottle, right? And then to clean it in between or something.
Yeah, and I'll just need a few buckets, similar sort of thing, just for, having it flush, so we'll figure that out.
Oh, okay.
But then, and I have a tent, we can bring Sarah's tent, and then 2 like folding tables, so we'll each have our own folding table. But then, do we want to have other promotional, like trail maps, or, I know we talked about sea level rise things, or what else? And I don't know if anyone else wants to be there to talk about other things or promote. We may have our hands full with these models.
Models.
I'm happy to prepare handouts and things like that, just, it would be helpful to get, I don't wanna have a bunch of stuff that we don't wanna talk, I don't know, so tell me what you want. I do worry about, so our trail maps are grossly
Right.
inaccurate for Henderson, Swayze, and Oakland's, but it could be an opportunity to promote dispersed use, especially, at least for the hikers, to highlight some of the other properties, so I could bring brochures for, some of the other parcels, like McDonald.
I think that's a good idea.
Rains, I think I have 5 different trail maps in Little River, so I could do McDonald, Rains, and Little River.
Yeah, let's do that. Anything else?
I could, so unfortunately the Cape map, no, not the Cape, yeah, the Cape maps are really low quality, but I could print, just because we only have anyway, it doesn't matter. But I could print the sea rise maps if you think people would be interested in looking at those.
Yeah.
But,
It would seem like a miss if no one is presenting that information
right.
here.
Right. So maybe
you
six
should.
Displays and,
But I don't know, do we have another table, or, I guess that could be, the actual groundwater models, it's only this big, so.
yeah,
Could be on
I
a-
mean, these would be like 11 by 17, I wouldn't.
Okay,
I don't think I could do the plotter size ones
yeah.
easily.
Yeah, so let's bring those too, and we'll just have them. And we can move from things if needed, or if anyone wants to stop by and hang out for an hour or whatever.
Yeah, I might be able to help a little bit. I just can't commit
Yeah,
yet.
no
'cause
one, yeah.
we have to figure out children shuttling to weekend activities, and so I'll be available at some point, but I don't know when, so I can follow up with you guys when I know. And I'm happy to
Yeah, we
stand
could-
by those maps and talk about them.
Yeah, we could just play it by ear, and if you show up, you do, and if not,
Perfect.
that's fine. You don't need to commit or be stressed by it, so. I
That
get it.
That sounds perfect.
Okay. But
Yeah,
we'll
I'll be
have
there
them
with the Exeter River Local Advisory Committee table, so.
Okay,
Maybe we need a flyer saying we're looking for volunteers.
join the commission.
Yeah.
There's also a lot of openings on the Exeter Swampscott River Local Advisory Committee. For Exeter, I'm the only one. We used to have we could have as many as 4
Oh, really?
in this town, yeah.
Yeah, Todd used to do it, and,
Todd used to be, John Henson, Pete Richardson, all former members.
you can do both this and that, right? There's no,
Yeah, oh, yeah. It's great because you're talking about the entire watershed, which,
And
impacts
you see
Exeter.
AOT permits, which we don't, so.
yeah, you see a lot of things
Right,
that we don't.
yeah,
And
that,
Shoreland, sorry. Well, you see both. but-
Well, because it's, yeah, any DES application that's within a 1/4 mile of the Exeter River or Swampscott River
corridor, yeah.
should be noticed to the local river advisory committee. Okay. So I'll plan on getting there. It starts at 9 is the event,
Yeah.
but also I'll try and show up by like 8:30 just to have some time to, does that seem right? When are you you'll be there
I'll
before
be
that?
there, yeah, probably at least by 8, if not a little earlier,
Okay.
just to get the parking spots established.
Okay, well, maybe I'll see if I can get there earlier than
Oh,
8:30.
Important question, when's the food truck and coffee showing up?
Yeah, so food truck, 9 to 1,
9 to 1.
and it's
Cool.
parked right there. So we'll have to, poor Tricia's gonna have to smell it, her station's right next to it, smell it all morning long, but, it's a cool food truck. I was looking at, it's called Winnie's, and it's more of a catering food truck, but she's coming, free of charge and charging. But it's breakfasty food.
Oh,
So
good.
it's- Yeah. I don't know about smelling bacon all morning, but yeah.
Bacon.
All right.
Great.
Well, I'm really looking forward to it and hope we get a good turnout.
Yeah, so if you are on Facebook, there's several posts scheduled over the next couple days. Please see them, if you look for them and forward them if you could. And I think I'll try to put one on the community.
Yeah, put one on the community.
Page, or if someone is on there and you want to forward it there, that'd be great. I have noticed that I've over-posted a little bit because my reach has gone down quite a bit, so, yeah, so if you want to start.
If you post too many times, your reach goes down?
Well, I think people are just like,
Huh.
scroll,
Okay.
That hurts.
The
Yeah, like,
algorithm, I don't know, the algorithm's weird, so. Okay, so that's a good idea if we can forward those or share those, get the word out this week. It would be really exciting if the alewife are actually running, and then we can extra promote that, and
I know.
that would be cool.
Walk down.
I'm
Spybridge.
feeling it. I'm feeling it.
I am
With this
too.
warm weather, I don't know if
I
that
know.
actually affects anything with alewife, but
Yeah, I think they're starting to run in now. Hopefully we'll get a good run, and people can watch the seagulls on the rocks there at the rapids,
Yeah.
plucking them.
that would be really neat. Do we have people, Bob, is Bob videography and taking photos and things to document this? Do we have?
No. So the paper, I did talk to our new reporter. He was iffy if he could be there or not. But, we just need to all just take pictures.
Take pictures.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good.
Garrett will be there. I haven't talked to him to find out if he's doing video equipment, but I just think we just need photos that, get more use out of those, I think.
Yeah.
So I was trying to tell, did you do an event?
Yes.
Okay. I couldn't find it, and for some reason, it won't even let me save it to the page. Like your post for
Oh.
Mother's Day? I don't know what's going, because if you make an event and people take pictures, they can tag
Yep.
where they're at. That's
Oh,
what
and
I was
Facebook,
So on
a
the
Facebook
conservation-
event.
It should be on the Conservation Commission page, but it's a joint event, so it should also show up on Parks and Rec and Exeter TV
Yeah, I saw it through, Melissa Paley posted it
Yeah.
on her page too. I saw it there.
as the event, or
As the
did she-
event, yeah.
event tagged to your conservation page.
I'll go look. That can be how I wind down.
Okay. All this. All right, let's see if we can wrap this up. We have a few more things. Geocaching.
So, yeah, I threw that out originally.
Yeah, and then we're gonna keep bugging you.
It's okay, but I haven't done anything yet, but I have thought about it.
Okay.
So what I need to do is you need to find 10 geocaches before you can start placing your own. And so, I don't know if you guys, I'm not sure if it was Exeter Parks and Recreation or if it was the concept, but I remember when my kids were little, they had 5 different places in town where you could go and do a rubbing of
Oh, yeah, the
top of a
passports.
foot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was
and
us.
Someone stole some of them, but I thought
Right.
that you could some of them were stolen, right? So we
Yeah.
get there and we're like, I'm pretty sure we couldn't, we looked really hard and couldn't, but I thought that maybe that would be maybe a way you kind of revive that and put caches in specific places where you want people to go and it's cool places there's the Fort Rock Rocks, where
Yeah.
they have the old, or just places that are cool that you're trying to get people to go to. But like, and I don't know how much we wanna get into that, but you could even have like a sticker if you got like a certain grouping of caches that you found, or, you know, I don't know how much that wants to be, managed. But so apparently, the easiest way to get them is on the Rockingham Rail Trail. Like if you go along there, there's apparently like a bunch right along there. Not that many in like Henderson Swayze. So in my head, like I felt like Henderson Swayze would be the great place to park and just go in there. But I kind of feel like I need to place some of my own caches before that works out. So my plan is to go run along the rail trail and get 10 of them, so that I can then create my own caches, I guess.
Okay.
But then, once I do that, what needs to happen to, like, do I need to make a flyer?
Yeah, I mean, I can help with all of that, like, once we have I don't know, I'm just kind of brainstorming, but once we so you're saying create new, like, there's not enough in dense enough.
Well, I guess if we
numbers.
just met at the depot on the Rockingham Rail Trail in Newfields, and you could just go in there, and I think there's a lot in there.
And so once, as individuals, we collect 10, we find 10, then you can create new ones, is that what you're saying?
Yes,
Okay,
and you can become like a sponsor, but,
so.
like, and I also kind of don't even know, like, what kind of a response it would get. Like, I could see it getting a couple people, or I could see it getting 50 people, you know, and so, but,
I mean, you could make it as complicated or as simple as
Right.
you wanted it. You could just like meet at Henderson Swayze and like talk
Just go
about
find a
how to go
couple.
do it, and then
Right.
show the
And maybe
online
that's a good way to start.
resources, and then just go find one or two.
See how, what kind of.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and then say, okay, now you can go forth.
okay. So
And
if I were gonna start
geocache.
with that, then what do I need? Do I need to make a flyer?
so when you geocache, I'm not my kid did it twice, but you go on your phone,
You
right?
download an app,
Download an app.
and
So-
then it has like where your location is currently, and then it'll show you where.
So I guess we would need to talk about like a date, and then, you know, how long and where people would meet, and a description of the event, and I could make a flyer and post it wherever, and then day of we meet, we go over, like Drew had said, we go over someone other than me, go over how to find a geocache, and then go through the effort of finding a geocache together, and maybe there's another one that they can all like.
Sure,
look.
sure. I think there are a few in there.
But I'm
Great.
happy
Okay.
to help with whatever flyer, and then it's just a matter of spreading the word.
Okay. And like, do
There
you-
is also, for family events, there was a Seacoast, a woman reached out to me when I posted another former event that we had, and she said, anytime you have a family event, you can put it on this Seacoast, it's like Seacoast Kids Network or something like that, so
Oh, yeah.
that could be another place that we advertise.
So, well, I'm gonna have to go geocaching first and just make sure I can find these things. I'll seem like an expert.
Are there any geocaching apps without a paywall?
Yeah, they're free. It's free.
Which one
To-
is it?
Well, let's see. It's just called geocaching.
Yeah, I think that one limits what you can do without paying.
Limit. Well, okay. Well, I haven't done it yet, but
And it might be the only option. I mean, I haven't played around with it much. My kids also dabbled. And then, you know, we could find like one or two, and then anything after that, you had to start paying.
well, I'll find out.
Yeah, let us know.
You could always do the Pokemon one.
Pokemon Go.
Someone said that,
That's a little different, but
Oh, okay, but maybe not as skill building, I don't know. But someone said the, Tree City USA sign is a Pokemon.
oh, okay.
Pokemon or something, I don't
Yeah,
know
there's
what
something
it's
there. Yeah.
called. And then something at the kiosk at Rains, it seems like a lot of our properties have Pokemon
No
Go,
idea.
please.
I'm learning, listening to you guys.
Don't learn from me, because I don't know what I'm talking about.
Pick up little things here and there. It'll all connect sooner than later.
But
Yeah.
yeah, Kyle, I'm happy to help pull together like all of the,
Okay.
you know, advertising around it once we nail down what our game plan is. But please, a little bit after the ALY festival, because we have that, and then the following week, I'm going out to the middle school to do the water quality program with them again this year, so. A little break. Craziness.
All right, awesome. Yeah, no rush on this. All right, any other correspondence or business? Okay, we do have minutes to approve, both April and May's. We didn't have a quorum last month, people.
Oh.
My fault. Sorry.
I wasn't here either.
Yeah, yep.
No, was I.
I'm aware, because I was here and you guys weren't.
I heard it was a good one.
No, it was fine. So we didn't approve the minutes. It was a good,
March and April? Or,
yes. What did I say? May and April?
oh, I did not include March.
You
in
didn't
your
include them in the packet. But they were fine. We just didn't have the quorum to approve them. So I read these ones. They also seemed good. Did anyone have any other comments for the minutes? Okay,
Move to approve the March minutes. March?
we'll second that.
April.
Do you want to do, we could do them together, I think.
Well, I can't vote, I'm not gonna vote on the April ones because I wasn't here.
Okay.
So that's why I just,
How do we vote on something if there was not even a,
I don't know. Yeah, you're right, you didn't have an official meeting.
Maybe someone watched the video and felt the minutes accurately reflected what happened in the meeting.
yeah.
Sometimes that can happen.
I mean, I was there and they looked pretty accurate, so maybe you could just believe.
Okay, so let's do the April ones. All those in
Yeah.
favor of, or the March ones as Don suggested. All those in favor of approving the March minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Seeing none, okay, we've approved the March ones. The April ones, I will motion that we approve them.
I will second.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Approved. Any other business or anything else? Our next scheduled meeting is June 14th. So we'll see you then.
Did you get a memo, Drew, did you get a memo from Julie Gilman about HB?
Oh, I didn't talk about that.
307?
Yeah, we got an email today that Kristen Murphy forwarded regarding that. And I can't say I looked at it with close enough detail to say anything about it.
I'm right there with you. Trust me.
So the concern is that this prohibits municipalities from managing in any way individuals from having or discharging a firearm on town property. And so it sounds like there's been a little chat, I have not, I don't know if our legal counsel has looked at it, but I know NHAC's, New Hampshire Association of Conservation Commissions, reviewed it, and it sounds like for deeds where it explicitly says hunting is not permitted, we're okay, but on other properties, so what we typically do is say we get a deed that prohibits hunting, if we have an abutting property, we generally follow the same prescription, and so we would not be able to manage discharge of firearms on other properties. And it sounds like so it is being discussed this Thursday, and it sounds like there's high potential for it to pass. So a lot of conservation organizations and municipalities are concerned over this. So, for example, people, Swayze Parkway, you know, if there's, anyway, so I guess if the commission feels like you want to issue a letter on behalf of the commission, that we would need a vote to do that. If you all just want to take individual action and contact your state reps, that can happen as well. It's pretty easy to also issue a comment on legislation. They've opened it up so that you can basically do it electronically. It takes almost no time to submit. At least we know if you support or are opposed to the bill, and generally what takes a little bit more time is following that up with an email or letter. So,
Yeah, Julie said it might be well to write the governor.
the governor or state reps?
Concern would be,
Yeah, she
my
said,
concern would be somebody trying to set up a target shoot in Henderson, Swayze, or the Oaklands, when we've got people walking by and biking by.
yeah, that would obviously be concerning. Yeah, I don't, so that's something that we could not prevent somebody because,
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't passed yet, so, but that, if it
The
passed,
hearing
that,
is-
yeah.
I'm trying to get to the email and it's not working.
So I
very
guess
well.
the question is, do you want to take action as a board and send a letter to your state reps as the Conservation Commission? Or do you just want to leave it open to commission members to take individual action? My impression was Julie was encouraging. No, I don't
Individual.
want to say that.
yeah, I mean, at this point, I guess, unless, Bill, if you want to write a letter, I'm okay with someone writing a letter on our behalf if they want. If you want to take up the cause, Bill, I guess otherwise I'm inclined to just do individual actions.
Yeah, so Julie is recommending reaching out to if, all reps, and because she expects it will pass, she is recommending also writing to the governor. She felt if he was written to now, it wouldn't hurt.
Right. Yeah. I think if it's going to be, it's thought to be passed, then I think the governor is the last resort. But
Yeah,
I don't know, with this legislature, I'm really disappointed.
yeah. It's
Well,
strange. Like, do we really need this right now?
well, let's do it individually then, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. All right, thank you for bringing that up, Bill, because that was something that came out today and slipped my mind, so. All right, well, I will motion to adjourn. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, we are adjourned.
Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast channels 98 and 22. Channel 98 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 13, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.